Everyone, and welcome to Make Things Club, a club for people who like to make things. My name is Sarah, and I am the host of this podcast, and it's been about 3 weeks since I have updated you on anything that's going on in my life. So I was going to record last week, and technically, I actually did. But I was really hungover, the weather was nuts, and I looked like basically I died on a beach and was washed up somewhere. So I decided to veto the entire thing because I really just wasn't cool with how that whole experiment kind of worked out. But I'm back this week, and I really don't have too much time to talk today because my brother's getting married. So his ceremony isn't until about 6:30. I'd like to be at the venue by 6, and that gives me 4 hours. So I've done this stuff and this stuff, and then I'll just get dressed and whatever and pop out the door. So first of all, I wanted to just kind of say thank you to everybody who tuned in. If this is your first time viewing the podcast, thank you so much for checking me out. If this is like your 50th time tuning in, which is impossible because this is episode 18, thanks for coming back. I wanted to say thank you from like the very bottom bowels of my heart from, you know, the response that I got the last time that I recorded, because I was definitely not in a good space at that time. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who reached out, who wrote me a message, who sent me something really nice. And I just wanted to let everybody know that I did read everything, and I really am grateful that people responded or like sent me a message and really, you know, said nice things. I didn't respond to everybody because honestly, especially on YouTube, I find replying to every comment is really awkward, and not that I don't want to, it's just I worry that like if I just say thank you so much, thank you so much, thank you so much, like, you know, just the same canned response to everything, that it'll just kind of seem not very well thought out or something. So I really wasn't sure how to respond to everybody, but I read everything, and I appreciated every post, so thank you so much. Since then, I've been in a better upward trend. I still have bad days, and I still have days where I'm just like, what the hell is wrong with me already? But for the most part, things have been a lot more positive, and I've been a little bit more like willing to accept that I'm not a horrible human being. So hooray, tiny victories. I do want to no, I don't want to talk about cowls yet. Sorry, I'm really hot. I have a really hard time with heat and humidity, and I'm dying today. But I should probably introduce myself on the internet as a whole. So if you want to follow along in my crazy life adventures, my Instagram is Loose Pages. Loose Pages also is my Twitter account, and my Pinterest account, and my Periscope account that I don't use, and my Snapchat account that I barely use. But basically anything that requires a sign in. Oh my god, I'm sweating. You can find me online as Loose Pages. On Ravelry, you can find me as Romperlust. There is a podcast group for the podcast. It's pretty quiet. I'm probably the worst facilitator of that group, but it's there. So if you wanted to introduce yourself, you're more than welcome to. And thank you to everybody who has already done that. Now we can talk about cowls. So there is still a knit along for the Knit City sweater. I will fully admit I still haven't swatched for mine, and I really don't want to. So I'm having issues with this. I truly don't want to do it. It's really hot. I don't want to be holding that much yarn in my lap or my hands. I just can't. I really should though, because I'd be the worst person if I didn't even join my own cowl. but I'm changing patterns. So from the Rosemont cardigan from Hannah Fedig, I'm switching to the Cross Country by Alicia Plummer. I'll put a picture in here so you actually see what it looks like instead of me just vaguely holding the paper pattern in front of the camera. So I'm switching patterns because I have a feeling with the amount that I don't want to do a sweater in the first place, if it's just a plain stockinette sweater, I'm probably not going to do it. So the Cross Country has a little bit of a detailing and a little bit more of a pattern. I'm hoping that'll pique my interest, especially, you know, with a big project like this. So basically I'm switching patterns. I'm going to try something with a little bit of actual something, because I think just stockinette would just be too much. So I'm going to gauge swatch eventually. It's a long weekend next weekend, so I'm hoping I can at least, you know, get the appropriate needles that I think I actually need to get gauge. So that'll be later. I don't really want to do it right now. But for everybody who is doing it, I guess, thank you so much for joining. I've seen Caitlin, who's getting married today. Her sweater is actually coming along quite well. Carla, who is Carla Crafts, she's got one going, but you know, life happens and things happen, so I'm just a little worried that because I am sweating, I'm just a little worried that I'm just not going to want to do it, and I just won't. So keep me accountable, people. Keep me accountable. The other knit along, hold on, I'm rushing. Can you tell I'm rushing? I'm sweating, I'm rushing. The other things that I would like to talk about is there are a couple prizes. I have a project bag coming to me from the Relentless Knitting Company, so that'll be yours if you win. I have a couple marketplace entrances for Knit City. I also have a bag of bath salts from Jasper and a skein of yarn. I'll show the skein of yarn at some other time when I'm not sweating to death and worrying that I'm gonna ruin my hair and makeup. So just bear with me today. It's a crazy day. The other knit along, and both of these knit alongs that I'm briefly blowing through can be found on my Ravelry page. There's more information and there's some chatter threads. The other knit along that's going to be starting up real soon is the Canada Cowl, and that is hosted by the ladies of the Two Tangled Skeins podcast. And in addition to that, pretty much everybody who is a Canadian podcaster has kind of said, yeah, we'll help. So I'm going to be co-hosting this as well as entering. I want to win some prizes. Holy Jesus. Look at this. Whew, it's hot. I want to win some prizes too, so I'm going to be entering. What was I going to say? I made a basket. So there's my works in progress baskets. So I'm going to be starting the Authenticity Shawl with this, which is a skein of sweet fiber in the Embers colorway. So I'm going to start this real soon. I'm also going to start a Forager scarf with more sweet fiber. This is a flannel colorway. And those will be my main projects that I'll be working on at that point. My goodness, it's really hot. I can do this. Now I have a fan. I'm so gross. I don't remember what I was talking about before the sweat thing happened. I think I was still talking about the Canada Cowl. But anyways, that cast on date is Friday, and Friday happens to be Canada Day, which also happens to be a holiday. Guys, I'm like, this is why when I'm thinking about my wedding, I'm doing it in the middle of winter. Because I hate heat. I do not handle heat. I don't handle humidity either. And I think it's probably pretty humid outside today, so. Anyways, that cast on date is Friday. I will be taking part in that. I don't know if I'm actually doing anything fun or fancy for Canada Day. Usually we would, for the last couple of years at least, we'd go and watch the fireworks together. But my friend who we've gone with the last 2 years is expecting a baby at some point, like in 2 weeks. So we'll see kind of what happens. I don't have any plans right now, so even if I'm just sitting at home where no mosquitoes can eat me, that sounds fine to me. So that also can be found on the Ravelry group when it comes to more information about what that cowl is, what the premise is, and all that other stuff. So like I said, I don't have a lot of time today. I'm just kind of blowing through a podcast. But if you ever have questions or if there's something that you'd like to know more about, check out the Ravelry group. There's all the rules for both the Knit City sweater and the Canada Cowl kind of posted on that. So I guess with all of the housekeeping duties and me sweating to death, we'll just kind of move through to the knitting component of this thing. So I do have a finished object, and last week when I was recording my forgotten let's just not do this podcast, I was just kind of finishing the last lace insert of this, but I am finally done my Waiting for Rain shawl. I say done, but there's an end. There's an end. So I'm not quite done. I haven't woven in my ends yet, but it's huge. Whoop. Whoop. So yeah, it's quite large. I like it a lot. I love it. I've worn it a couple times now and I've gotten lots of compliments, which is the reason why I knit, for other people to validate me, obviously. There's a couple sections that I feel got worse with blocking, like the stupid little mistakes that I made everywhere. And it does bother me quite a bit that they exist. But like I said to myself in the unreleased podcast, that, you know, they're not as bad as I was expecting them to be, and nobody's gonna notice them. I mean, 98% of this shawl is perfectly done, so I'm not gonna let that, probably even more than that, like 99.3%. So I'm not gonna let the 0.7% mistakes that I made kind of ruin it for me. So I'm done this. I would put it on, but I would rather die. So I'm not gonna put it on. I really need to start taking better project photos because I'm really bad at it. But I just love it. I love this edging. I love the lace. I love the color. The color was really hard to put on Instagram too. It didn't really want to photograph that well. But it's a beautiful purple. It reminds me a lot of the atmosphere of Jupiter, which I think is really cool. So like the storm spots and the bands. My fiance said that if I make another one, I should make it with a color scheme as well, just to kind of prove the point. But I'm done. I'm so happy to be done this. I'm so happy to have my 4mm needles back. So that's done. And for those of you who aren't familiar, that's a pattern by Sylvia, who is Soft Sweater on Ravelry. She is also like the sweater goddess, or the shawl goddess. She's amazing, so you should definitely check out her patterns. She's also a Canadian designer who has tons of patterns available. So if you did want to join the Canada Cowl and you weren't sure, you know, if you wanted to do a Canadian designer or somebody else, then check her out. She's great. The other two patterns that I'm going to be making, one of them is hers and the other one is a friend of hers. So yeah, she's fantastic. Another thing that I recently started, so I started this, I cast it on Wednesday and then recast it on Thursday because I wasn't quite happy with how I did it. So I started the Color Field shawl and I'm housing it in my sloth bag from Jess at Haven Yarns. So I am working on the newest pattern release by Kemper Ray of Junk Yarn, and her new shawl is called the Color Field shawl. So I started mine on Thursday. I got a decent chunk done. So you can see I'm using the leftover remnants of my Adama cowl, which is the Cascade 220 Heathers in the opal. And then the speckly part is a Madeline Tosh DK yarn, and it's in the Optic colorway. So I'm not sure if I like really am cool with how the pooling is happening. It's really inconsistent and it seems to kind of gather in the center of the shawl. So I'm hoping that as I go, I won't have as many blank sections like this. So, but it's typically pooling in the middle, which is kind of a bummer. I'd like it to be more speckly, because especially like this little naked part here is kind of, it's a sad little naked part. But I really like the shawl so far. I'm already concerned that I'm going to be playing yarn chicken, because the yarn used in the pattern is her DK junk yarn, and I believe there's 231 yards per skein, and I'm using the Mad Tosh which I believe is 225. That already puts me at like a 7-yard deficit for the speckles, but I do have an extra skein of this. So if worse comes to worse, I just finish the shawl with this sucker. So yeah, once again, another inappropriate seasonal knit. And you know what? The weird thing is, because I know I've worked with the Cascade 220 quite a bit, so it has like a really crunchy yarn feeling to it. But I've never used the Mad Tosh DK before, and I get this like really weird, it's not as soft. Like I wonder what it'll be like when it blocks out, but I find it feels really synthetic. Like, you know that feeling that you get when you rub cotton together and it's like that scritchy kind of like resistant, it's hard to explain, but I'm sure you know what that feeling is. That's what I get from this. It doesn't quite feel like wool. It feels more like a cotton or an acrylic, and I'm hoping that it softens up when it blocks. Because yeah, it's not as squishy and wonderful as I want it to be. So hopefully it softens up when I block it out a bit. So the one thing that I will kind of point out is that there's like a slip stitch pattern, and yeah, it's kind of cool. So anyways, that's the color field. Woo! And the other thing that I've been working on still in my Space Club bag by Laura from the Fawn Knits is my pine bough cowl. And this is a free pattern by Diana Walla. And I am almost 50% finished. So lean back. Put the donut side first. So this guy is a work in progress for sure. I'm finding that the longer it gets, because it's such a tube, when it sits on my lap, it kind of collects like this, and then I do the round and then it gets all twisted, so I have to adjust it quite a bit. And I am finding that the heaviness of this project is affecting my wrists. So I haven't been knitting on it as much because it is heavy, and I have been getting a lot of wrist pain over the last couple weeks. So for me, this pattern, I feel like isn't, oh no, what's this? Did I drop a stitch? Uh-oh. That looks like a drop stitch. That's not good. Let's just do that so that I can sew that in. Anyways, surgery. I'm glad I found that, because that would have been really disappointing. But yeah, this one's really heavy, and it hurts my wrist, so I haven't been working on it as much. But it is super pretty. Look at this. It's gonna look awesome in the winter. Also, I'm not gonna lie, there's 100 stitches on the needles, and you Kitchener both ends together. So you take out the provisional purple cast on that I did, and then you Kitchener all of the edges together. That's gonna take forever, but I actually like Kitchener stitch, so hopefully it'll be not as bad as I'm expecting it. But I just started the chart for the other side. It goes all this way, and then you hit the stripes again. So once I hit that stripe section, that's exactly 50%, because each section is 25, and then I'll be halfway done. So this one's probably going to take a little bit of a back burner right now because it is so hot. This one is going to be like the most warm cowl in the winter, but right now it's very hot to work with. And other than that, that's kind of all I'm working on right now. I am going to hopefully start another, I'd like to finish, hold on. So once again, I'm pulling out this sock because I really need to finish its soulmate. So maybe that's another thing that I'll work on. I'll just bust out the DP ends and knit up my last Rose City roller for this guy. Because like, I have yarn everywhere that's just kind of a mess, and I'd really like to kind of get all my works in progress off and move on. Just move on. So that's all the knitting that I have. I haven't really done any other crafting right now just because I don't have the time to really get myself set up for other stuff. the lighting situation has changed in here. There. I don't have a lot of time to get myself set up right now, and I don't have a lot of time to like pull new stuff out. I really need to organize my space a little bit better and get rid of a bunch of stuff that I'm not going to use. So essentially I redid my yarn wall. So I have all my cakes on this side and all my hanks on that side. And I would like to get my desk cleared off because what you can't see right now is the ultimate chaos behind it. Oh, I have a bit of stash enhancement. Just a bit. Let me pull that out. So I talked about this on my non-existent podcast last weekend by myself, and I just wanted to point out again. So I ordered from Talking Clay, which is an Etsy shop. And actually, I'm really excited because Nancy, who owns the shop, is going to be a vendor at Knit City. So I couldn't wait though, and I had to order myself some of these little teeth stitch markers. So I kind of love them. Look at these guys. For those of you who know me, you kind of know that I have a weird morbid fascination with like odd kind of things. Lately, in the last couple of years, I've been really interested in reading books about like death and what your body does afterwards. And there was a really good one by Mary Roach that kind of was the gateway for me, which is The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers. And that was really interesting. And that led to me reading a book called Smoke Gets in Your Eye by Caitlin Dowdy. And Caitlin is a really cool person to kind of follow. She's got a YouTube channel, and she's a mortician that used to be a crematory operator, and she's really smart and witty, and she kind of makes, you know, a whole death positive movement about, you know, being in control of your life and your death ultimately, and having your family kind of have that say and not that removed sense of, well, you're dead, so let them take you away and then we just won't worry about it, and then, you know, we have this weird funeral and everything. So it's just more of a death positive way of dealing with that. So I thought these teeth were pretty cool and kind of filtered into my latest morbid fascination with all things body. So I ordered these from Nancy. Nancy has some really cool other stuff in her shop. She's got a bunch of yarn bowls, and I think part of me will be saving up for one in October when I'm in Knit City. So I got that. I also got one of those stitch markers from the Hey Holly Ho Hum, the stitch markers case, the little pomelo one. And I don't have it on me right now. And I really like it, but there's a couple things that I'm not, God. There's a couple things that I'm not quite impressed with it. Maybe I should go get it. So I picked this up, and I like it. I really kind of think it's fun. You press a little button, and it's supposed to switch. It's supposed to switch the little segments, which in turn keep your stitch markers segregated and happy and organized. So the one thing that I'm not quite exactly happy with is that if you look closely, you can see the little white thing here that kind of separates them. It doesn't go all the way to the top, and it's got enough of a space where all of your stitch markers, if this thing gets knocked upside down, can just go everywhere. So that was one thing that I wasn't quite expecting, but it makes sense as to why that works. But originally, I saw these online, and they're kind of marketed as like pill separators. So for like your week, you know, vitamins or whatever, your medications. And that would be the same kind of problem I would have with this, is if it gets knocked up in my bag or knocked around in my bag, who knows what can move all over the place. So I think it's really cute, and it serves its purpose, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, oh, I'm a little too type A to have all of my stitch markers kind of meld and mix, and I like to keep them separated for reasons. But it's really cute. I really like it. I haven't quite figured out how to take the top off to like separate them properly, but I'll probably just break it because I have no ability to just like gently do things. So I think besides that, that's all the really I've picked up for myself. I've been really good at not spending too much money on yarn and yarn related stuff because I know that October is going to be a little bit nuts. So I haven't really been playing ball in terms of like shop updates and that kind of thing, which is fine. I did sign up, however, for Charlotte's post scrapping swap. Oh no. And my postcard came in the other day, So this one comes from Aline, and she's in Finland. But she sent me a really cute little postcard of this little rabbit that's knitting. And a nice little note on the back. And then the yarn that I got sent is actually a really pretty green. So it's very similar to like my campside shawl, which is really cool because my campside yarn is a worsted and this is a fingering. So this can go in my sock blanket. So I'm gonna have to ball this guy up and then that'll go into the jar. And actually the jar has been getting quite full lately. I haven't had time to work on my mini skein blanket because I have other things that I'm working on. But I've kind of worked up quite a nice little collection in here. So I might have to work on it again. I do have a ton of yarn from my Waiting for Rain shawl left over, so that's awesome. And right now my blanket's just sitting dormant with my needles and everything, just waiting. So I'll work on it eventually. It is really funny how a lot of people are like, you know, my interest in working on my blanket comes and goes. It's not consistent, and I find that too. There will be, you know, a week where I just work on that nonstop and nothing else, but I've been having enough fun working on other projects that I really just haven't been interested in working on that one lately. So that's kind of all the interesting craft stuff that I have going on. In terms of other stuff, like I said, my brother's getting married today, so that's really exciting. The weather I'm hoping will hold up. It rained already this morning, so hopefully it's good. We had a non-rehearsal dinner yesterday with family and friends that I haven't seen in a while, so that was really nice. And tomorrow morning there will be a brunch. So I know that recording today would probably be really good because tomorrow I'm going to be hungover, and I know how bad my podcast can be when I'm hungover. I think that's like the third time. Tomorrow will be like the third time that I've attempted it if I do it. So today works better. Plus, I'm already done. I don't have to worry about like getting up and showering or anything. So yeah, tomorrow there's going to be a little bit of a brunch. I'm going to have to get groceries because we haven't had food in our house for like a week. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. I guess I'll let you guys go. I've got a bunch of stuff that I would like to do before we leave, and I'd like to be really organized. So I will sign off for this week. I will maybe record next week just because it's a long weekend and I'll have a lot more time, but I think I'll stick to the bi-weekly schedule and be as bi-weekly as possible because this was like tri-weekly almost. So thanks for watching, and if you want to follow along with everything else that I'm up to, you can follow me on Instagram as Loose Pages. On Ravelry, I'm Romperlust. So let's be internet friends. I will say goodbye at this point though, and have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.